So today's new lesson is a thing called, I'm going to call this 1.3 supplementary, and this is called percentage increase or decrease. Now, I'm going to give you an example, then we'll do a couple problems, then you're going to do the practice problems that I provided for you online. So, what does percentage increase mean? Percent increase and decrease. What we're talking about is how much something, percentage of growth or shrink. Basically, it gives us an idea of how much something grows or shrinks compared to something from before. So here's our example. What is the percent increase from, let's say, $10 to $12. So imagine that your rate of pay, the amount of money that you make each week, each hour has been increased from $10 to $12. How do we figure that out? So here's how you do that. So when you do percentage increase, this is called, I go percent, let's just call this percent change. So if the percent change is positive, then we know that it's gross. If the percent change is negative, then we know it is shrinking or it's less. Okay? So here's what you do. We'll give you the 3 steps. 1, you take the last number, subtract the first number. And then you must hit equals on your calculator. 2, now you divide by the first. Now, let's go and show the solution to this problem. So let's go and figure out what the percent change is. So the percent change is equal to, well, we said we have to do the last minus the first. So we're going to use 12 and we subtract 10. What do you get? 2. So there's our start. So now, once we've done that, we must take 2 and divide by 10. And we go 2, divide by the first, which is 10. And that gives us 0.2. Now, a long time ago, I told you how to go and change a decimal into a percentage. And that's what step 3 is here. We must multiply by 100. So now we take, so step 1 was this, step 2 was this, and step 3 is the following. So you take 0.2 and times it by 100, and that gives you 20%. Now you'll notice that this is positive, so that means this is growth of 20%. So our wages grew by 20%. So now let's see what would happen if we have something that shrinks. You'll notice that the screen is different now. Now that we've got the main concept down, we're going to do the problem again. So let's make sure we understand what we're doing. Let's make sure we write that information down. So here are the steps. I'm going to write them in red. 1, we're going to go last minus first. Then once you've got that, you hit equal sign. Now 2. The next thing that you have to do is you have to divide by the first. Now that you've divided by the first, you've got a decimal number. Now we multiply by 100%, and we get our percent. Oh, make sure you always hit equals in between each one of these things, or else badness happens. So, for example, since you like to do this stuff on the computer, we'll do all those 3 steps in one shot for this next problem. Well, in 2 steps, so to speak. So this is our example of decrease. So this problem has some stuff you have to decode and you have to recognize. So this says a store averaged 186 customers a day, but on the weekends they averaged 126.48 customers a day. What is the percent decrease of those numbers of customers? So the first thing that you need to tell me is what is the first and the last. So if I look at this, this is my first number and this is my last number, right? So we have to figure out what our first minus last is. So here's how you would type this up on the computer. So what you get is 126.48 minus 186.26. Now that is step 1 from our calculations, but remember at the end we have to subtract it. So let's do that. So that gives us an answer of negative 160.26. So now you would have punched that in your calculator and that's what you would have gotten. So step 2 is talking about dividing what we have by our first number. So this is how you would type it on the computer when you're typing this up for me today. So you type in negative 160.26. Now, because we're dividing and we don't have a nice division symbol on the computer, we're going to do this. In order to represent the division sign, we're going to use the slash sign, which is found under, so the slash sign is found under the question mark on every keyboard that's in North America. So use shift. So just don't hit the shift button, just hit the question mark button and it'll come out as that backslash. And then we divide by the original number, the first number, 186. And now you've got 186.26. So in order to go from step 1 to step 2, you type out that number, you don't hit equals, you don't hit anything, you just hit straight division, go straight ahead to division, and then put in 186.26. Now, because I know you guys like to save time, you divide by 186.26, and then the final step, you see what number 3 is? Number 3 tells us that we basically must times whatever we get from this part here by 100. So let's just do that right away. So when you punch that in right away, here's the thing. Because we have literally times by 100, what you need to remember is that this is step 3 of our problem. Multiply by 100. And when we do that, all we do is just get our answer. So we have our negative 160.26 in the calculator. We divide by 186 right away, and then we times it by 100. And then that will give us this answer, which is negative 86.161. Now, you have to recognize that we're only rounding to 2 decimal places, so we're only rounding to where the 6 is. If you look at the number to the right of the 6, it's a 1, not a 5. If it was 5 or more, you would take 1/6 and turn it into 1/7. But since it's 1/6, we say this is our final answer. And this is going to be what you would actually write as your final answer. Now notice it's a negative. Because it's negative, we're going to say that this is a decrease. And that's all you need. And basically all you do is you just write down, so the decrease is 86.16%. And how did I get the idea that it was a decrease? It's all because of this teeny tiny little negative sign that we have here. Negative means decrease. If I don't have a decrease, then it's got to be an increase. Now I'm just going to highlight all the stuff that you need for this problem set. When you do this, I want you to be able to do this. So remember, last minus first. Last minus first gives us a number. We take that number and then we divide it by the first number and times it by 100. That gives us a number. We round it and then we say what our final thing is. So I'm just going to underline the stuff that we need. We need this in your solution, and we need this. So these 3 things that I show you here need to be in your solution, okay? And your final answer should be a written response. So now what I want you to do is I want you to go and do your own problems based on this. Send me emails if you have any questions. Have a good day. And remember, the problems that you're doing is called examining percent, increase, and decrease. I've made sure that it's a Word document that you can edit in Google Docs and send it back to me.